Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidate interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Shel Gross, and I would like to introduce Noah Lieberman, who is running for Alder in District 14. As we begin, please give an opening statement about the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have, which prepares you for this office and why you are running for Alder.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Noah Lieberman. I am running for Alder for District 14. My experience in politics goes back a long ways. I grew up in a very political household, and it was my parents' way of instilling in me the values that I still hold to this day, our need to be compassionate and to help others. And I think that local government is really where we have that direct impact on people's lives. So, my experiences in politics, I've worked with the Democratic Party for a very long time. I've been on the board of the Dane County Democratic Party since 2017, serving as the vice chair of campaigns and then now as the vice chair of membership. I also served as the chair of the 2nd Congressional District Democratic Party, helping to recruit candidates across Wisconsin, across Dane County here, who can further those goals of progressive ideals. I also served as chair of Madison's Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee, working to make sure that our tenants had access to their full set of rights, that they had access to safe housing, housing that was up to code, and that their landlords were following the law when it came to the rights of their tenants. I'm running for council. I'm doing so because, as I said, local government is that place where we have a direct impact on people's day-to-day lives. I want to take that experience I have of fighting for our values of equity and justice and bring that to the forefront and make sure that Madison stays a progressive beacon for years to come.
Thank you. How would you evaluate the city's current efforts to address homelessness and increase the amount of affordable housing? Are there additional steps the city should take to address these issues?
Yes. So I think that the city is on the right track when it comes to addressing the housing crisis. And I'm glad you framed that as two separate issues because I do think that they deserve to be talked about separately. When it comes to issues with homelessness, I think that the main thing we need to do is treat people who are dealing with housing insecurity with empathy and respect. Make sure that we are treating them as people, that we are giving them the resources they need to get on their feet. I don't like the idea of having a overly forceful response, viewing this as a criminal issue. And I think the city's done a really good job at turning its resources towards helping these people as opposed to putting them in jail. When it comes to the housing crisis more generally and the need for affordable housing, what we really need to do is take away all of the roadblocks to having more housing in Madison. We do not need arbitrary laws that are going to prevent people from building all types of housing across all of Madison. Right now we have a vacancy rate, that's the number of empty apartments, that is well below the national average and well below where we would want it to be in order to start bringing rents and housing prices down. So we need to first off just increase the supply. Beyond that, I think that housing prices are going to be for renters at whatever level landlords feel they can set them at. And so I also want to make sure that we're empowering tenants through both legal action and then community resources to make sure that they have the collective power they need to fight for lower rents and better living conditions.
What actions or programs would you support to enhance public safety in Madison? And in particular, what is your position on the use of body cameras by Madison police officers, given the recent demonstration project?
Yeah. I am in favor of body cameras. I think that making sure that there is police accountability is a big step into making sure the police are a trusted resource, and one as trust in the police grows, so can their effectiveness, as communities do trust them to do their jobs properly. But I think that for too long we've used police as a one size fits all solution for our public safety issues. I'd love to see more projects like the CARES teams in dealing with non-violent issues through social work and other evidence-based processes. Uh, because it, one, leads to better outcomes for everyone involved, and two, helps reduce just the presence of policing in our society, which again, I think will combat the feelings of over surveillance and increase trust in government and our first responses across the board. I also just want to say, when it comes to public safety, we talk a lot about policing, but keeping the public safe involves so much more. One area I'm particularly passionate about is traffic safety for cyclists and pedestrians, and I think that the city needs to be including those sorts of projects in our discussions when we talk about public safety and how we keep especially our children safe on our streets.
In the wake of the recent referendum to increase property taxes, what are your priorities for the city budget?
I think that the best thing the city invests in are its services. Um, there are things that we can only do collectively through government spending. And I think the city of Madison really excels at that. Our fantastic library system is a good example. The Goodman Pool and our parks, and just down to basic things like trash collection or plowing the streets. There are things that no one person can build individually that we can build as a collective. And I think those services often have a outsized impact for people who are otherwise struggling. And so my priorities for the budget are going to be in preserving those services, especially those that do provide direct assistance or improve the quality of life of poor people living in Madison. I was a supporter of the referendum because I think that it was how Madison could show that this was our priority, was helping each other and protecting the good union jobs that the city of Madison provides for so many employees.
How should Madison balance the need for development with other concerns such as traffic, historic preservation, and conservation of natural areas?
Yeah, to take those one at a time. In pairing development with traffic mitigation, I think public transit is a really essential tool here. Uh, we simply do not have the space in the city of Madison to both build this housing and have a uh, commensurate increase in just the number of cars that are on our roads. And public transit and other alternative forms of transit, like biking, are going to be the best ways for us to reduce that traffic burden for everyone, and also make sure that our roads stay clear and accessible for people who do need to travel by car. Um, with historic preservation, I'll take that one last actually. For environmental conservation, I think that making sure that all of our projects are going through an analysis of their environmental impact, both in terms of deforestation and what environments they may displace or upend, but also looking at uh, clean energy production and how they are being built and powered in a sustainable way. And then for historical preservation, I understand this urge to keep Madison looking a certain way. But for me, the history of Madison is about so much more than the bricks in our buildings. Madison is this fantastic progressive haven for so many. And I think that the more that we can still respect that history, but to carry it forward by expanding how many people can live in this fantastic place, that I think is really what embraces the history and the legacy of Madison.
What are the most critical issues that you see facing the people in your district, and how would you propose to address these?
Number one is certainly housing. And we've talked about this already, but just making sure we have more housing and that we have more protections for tenants, for renters, is the number one thing on my agenda. It's having the security of safe, affordable, high quality housing is the bedrock on which you can build the rest of your life. And it's something that I think should be a right and for everyone in Madison and obviously around the world. Um, Beyond that, I think that the Trump administration poses a lot of scary threats to a lot of different communities. Be they immigrants or people in the transgender community. Uh, I think that a top priority for me is making sure that the city of Madison is doing all it can to protect those communities from whatever overreaches we are going to see coming down from this second Trump administration. And I want to make sure that we are staying open to the concerns and the needs of these communities going forward.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Not to talk about him too much, but I know, like so many of you, I was sick to my stomach after this November election. I was scared, I was depressed. But we have a choice of whether we want to live in that fear and depression or whether we want to do something about it, whether we want to stand up and say that our values as a city and as a community are stronger than this. Local government is that final stop. It is the last bulwark before the overreaches of this new administration reach the lives of the people around us. And we need to do whatever we can in small ways and big ways to protect our neighbors, to increase the quality of life, to make sure that housing and transit and um, everything you need to live a fulfilling life is affordable and attainable, regardless of your income level. I think that the city government has the power to be that force for good. And I would encourage anybody who agrees with that to come take a look at my website and to come reach out to me. I want to work with you to help keep Madison that fantastic progressive place.
I want to thank Noah for speaking with us and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. I want to remind everyone that the general election is Tuesday, April 1st. Every election is important. Please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.